DBS community, welcome back to another video here with Chris, and today we're going to be going over the state of red going into Ultimate Squad. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Let me know what you guys think of red going into the set. Let me know what you guys are going to want to play from red, if anything at all. So into the video, here we go, and we'll go over the what we're looking at going into the format deck wise, right? So we have obviously the best red deck, more likely in the format, is going to be U7 Goku. This deck is, I would say, the most consistent red deck. There's people who play Red Gohan, I've seen people play some Red Vegeta, but by far the most consistent U7 deck that we've seen, and the largest array of data is coming from U7 Goku. This is definitely going to be the king of the format, at least until one of the other decks kind of come up, and we'll see how that deck is going to end up faring. In question, you could say it's in question, it's going to be King Piccolo. I think, in some aspect, I have a feeling someone's still going to try to play King Piccolo. There's got to be some way that people are going to try to play this deck, and I don't know how that's going to be. I do think it's possible. I think because King Piccolo realistically doesn't use a lot of energy, I could see King Piccolo using something like the Baby Unison on turn 3, and being able to draw off of that. I definitely can see it happening because of how the format is going to be slowing down, and someone's going to try to bring King Piccolo back into the format. I can just see it happening. So we'll definitely see. But some up and coming decks, we have Son Goku GT and the Rildo Dr. Mew deck that we'll go over here in this video in a little bit. But I want to go over the rogue decks real quick that we have for red, that we could definitely possibly see in this format. There's a pretty wide variety of stuff here. We have Jiren. Jiren is a very mid-rangey deck. It can go very aggro very quickly with a lot of those. I think they're 15 or 20, or like I think they're 19k dual attacks, which is essentially 20. I can't remember if they're 20k or not. And then you go into the big guy. The deck just has a lot of pressure. And can also play the new 8-drop Goku with the Topo Unison. You can actually pump up the Topo Unison up to 10k, and then put it underneath it, and then play it off of it. It's a very interesting little tech, but definitely something that Jiren can utilize. We have Broly Swap. I think this is another, probably one of the only other premier aggro decks that we have. However, I think there's so much removal in this format. I think Broly Swap is just a bad deck, at least right now, going into this current format. That could obviously change. But Trunks does very, Super Saiyan God Trunks does very well against this deck. Cell eats this deck apart. I don't think it's the right format for this deck. You can probably catch some people off guard with it if they're not really used to it. But anyone who's playing competitive Dragon Ball should have at least played against Broly at least once or twice, so you should have an idea of what it is that you're going up against. Cooler Mill can end up doing some things. Definitely one of the, I would say, not as good mill decks. I think it's out of the 3 mill decks, it's probably the worst, with Synex, Janempa, and then this. I think it's definitely the worst. It is one that has the ability to get through barrier, but the deck is this format may be decent for it, because you're going to be going into late part of the game. However, it doesn't have a ton of incredible bombs. I know the 8-drop Goku, I think since it does neg the board, can definitely be played in cooler, but we're gonna have to see what cooler ends up coming up with, if anything at all. Bulma blocker deck is definitely gonna be something that can be played, considering we are going into a slower format, and there's no Fu. This is definitely something that we can end up seeing, and probably there's mono red builds. I'm sure there's gonna be like red green builds. I'm sure we're going to find some other strategies for this deck. And then Frieza. This is a deck that's never actually seen too much competitive play, but the deck has gotten a promo from actually there's 2 promos now. One from this last set, which was the Dodoria that played out the field spell, and then a negate Frieza that you can play, you can swap into a 2-drop from. And that's kind of the whole idea of the Frieza deck, is you're just swapping into these different Frieza cards to go up the chain, eventually getting to the 5-drop Frieza. But you have the old red SR, and then you have 100% Frieza, which is okay. It doesn't work against tokens, so it's not as good. But definitely going to be, if you can end up playing out that card, you can definitely still potentially win games with it. So it's a very interesting concept, and we may see some of those going into the format. So the deck here we'll talk about is going to be U7 Goku. Pretty simple build here with the limitation to Piccolo Jr. Don't think anyone's going to be playing Piccolo Jr. now. It's going to be Jiren, and probably some Sin Shinron. Shinron should probably be played at some capacity. I think it's a very good unison. It just gets overlooked by the power that Jiren has. But Sin is definitely something that should be considered going into how the format's going to end up playing. I think a lot of people are starting to drop the Gohan 1-drop cantrip to go into more of the Android 18 one. Just because you're kind of going away from playing the skill stuff and then using the promo from last set, the Son Gohan promo, that it gives your leader. And I think it's an extra 1k or 3k or something like that. It's a very interesting card. Something that people should definitely look into playing. Now, going into the leaders that we have for the next set, as I said before, General Rildo and Dr. Mew, and the Son Goku GT. Trunks and Pan, but we're just going to call it Goku GT. It just makes it a lot easier. Now, Dr. Mew is widely considered the worst out of the two, and I would definitely agree with that. I think Dr. Mew is... the deck has a decent amount of tools. It has a promo that's coming out. Technically 2 promos if you want to count the other baby Machine Mutant as a promo, because for the deck, because it technically is. Problem with this deck is that if you whiff your turn 1, because your leader does not technically draw on the backside, this deck can end up hurting very, very badly, because you need to essentially turn 1. You want to be able to essentially awaken turn 1, right? That's the idea. Is you want to awaken turn 1, and I'm sorry, not turn 1, but turn 2 for sure. It's going to take some practice to kind of get that to happen, and because of that, you need to be closer to 50 cards as possible, so you're not whiffing on all of your plays, because that ends up hurting the deck very, very badly if you're not able to actually do that. So, but the deck does have some very interesting tools, has some very good archetype cards. I think that the deck's actually not bad. I just think the problem is that awakening at 6 life, but just not having any, real power on the front side. It's very, very weak. So we'll see. As I said before, I think this is probably going to be a local deck at best, but who knows? Maybe someone will try to play it in in a regional or a big tournament. Who knows? Maybe they'll get lucky because people don't understand the deck, and then they'll end up topping. So it is quite possible. I just don't see it happening quite a bit. But the deck we are going to see probably a lot of is going to be the Son Goku GT deck, and this deck has a lot going for it. I call this deck Great Value Time King Piccolo, because it is. It's not as good as King Piccolo, but it is. It's a very powerful deck. It just does similar things, just plays most of its cards out for 1 or 2 energy and set it for free, right? So it's very similar to something like U7 Goku. Has a very powerful unison, which there's maybe only, there's really 1 card that deals with the unison, which is going to be the Supreme Kai Secret Rare. But there's one deck in particular that actually does very, very well against this. I'm not going to talk about it. Maybe a deck that I'll end up playing at our first regionals, because I think this deck is going to be very, very popular. I just realized that there's Meta Rildo at the bottom of the leader here, so don't pay attention to that too much. I'm not sure actually how that happened. But regardless, I think this leader is going to be very good. The key component of this deck is the fact that you're able to play out your Saiyans from underneath the field spell, or the unison rather. So and that unison gains so many markers so quickly, it ends up being just wasted energy trying to pump damage into it, so your opponent's gonna have to attack your leader, which does open up, helping you awaken early. That's gonna be a big thing. And then you have some defensive tools like things like the difference in status, which is an extra card that's never really seen too much use in this deck, because you have so many markers. It's a very powerful card. It's just something that people are gonna have to experiment with. Triple Flash is something that I think people probably will experiment with locally. Competitively, it's not the greatest of cards, but it is a cool little tech that you can end up doing in the deck just for some extra damage. Now, some cards that I think you guys should look out for going into the next set is going to be the baby Juvenile Parasite. This is probably the unison of choice for a lot of people. Is it better than Jiren? I don't know. +1, draw 1. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards and place it underneath this card. And this card gets 10k power for the turn. So it becomes a 20k. And then instead of losing a marker from this card when it is attacked, you can place one card underneath this card in the drop area instead. Which is great because your opponent that swings at this, you can just permanent take the card underneath and put it in the drop area, and doesn't lose the marker. And this card also gives your leader 1k boost for just permanent, as long as all of your energy is in rest mode. So if you tap all your energy out and you're going into your opponent's turn, your leader will be 16k for the turn, which actually becomes very irritating. Your opponent actually has the combo cards away from their hand. So very, very powerful unison. And then we have Son Goku. This is the super combo, the blue-red super combo. I don't know if we're going to see a ton of blue-red going into the format, but as a red deck, or even as a blue deck, right? As a blue deck, being able to neg a battle card and or unison or a leader by 5 or 10k definitely can come in handy. So this is something I think will probably be teched in some blue decks, potentially some red decks, just being able to remove stuff on board. Blue doesn't have a incredibly tough time removing stuff, but I don't know if a lot of blue decks are going to be running the Realm of the Gods card anymore, because Goku Gt is gone, or not, yeah, well, that entire deck's gone, but thwarting specifically has kind of, been pushed out of the meta. So that's why a lot of people were running the Realm of the Gods cards. I don't know if they're going to do it as much. This may be an alternative that they can tech in as a super combo. And then 2 cards to look at, just, if you are playing red next set, is Triple Flash. I think Triple Flash is a very fun card. I think it's something that people should look into playing. And definitely could be a very powerful card. I mean, it's a 1-drop deflect triple strike that draws you 2 cards if you evolve. And you can evolve over the triple attack Goku. And this is something that could be very prominent in some decks. It just has a weird endgame card. Because it has deflect, and that's, I think, the biggest thing. The fact that it has deflect definitely puts this card in a good spot. The one problem with it is that it is a 10k, and red and energy is never really mixed too well. Red definitely needs its energy, so being able to use 1 energy to combo this card off doesn't probably feel the best. And the other card is Mutant Genesis. This is an extra card from the first anniversary product, I believe, for the game. And this is, if your leader is a Dr. Mew, you give your leader 15k for the duration of the battle, and choose up to 1 Machine Mutant card from your hand with energy cost 2 or less and play it. So this allows you to play defensively as also playing out one of your Machine Mutants, kind of a second version of your leader effect, which is essentially going to draw you a card. So it's essentially a 15k draw 1. And that's very good because if you do this on defense, especially like if you went first, and you don't get your swing off to play out your Machine Mutant, you can use this on defense, go up to 25k, play out a Machine Mutant, then you get the draw effect, and then you can then swing on your next turn to play another one, and then tap 1 energy and play a third one, and now you're awakening on turn 2. So it has a lot of playability there. I think if people are going to play Dr. Mew, I think they should probably tech this card in as at least a 2 of, if not more. So thank you guys though for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think of red. Let me think of what you guys' thoughts are for the first part of this meta and what we're going to potentially see from red. Let me know if there's any decks that you guys think I missed. Any weird rogue decks that you guys think could be possibly played in red. Let me know down below if I missed them. We can talk about it down there. So thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.